Okay, let's go on ahead and get started. My name is Gary Case. I'm Principal Consultant with Pink Elephant. I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar. It is titled Lean Kaizen in Action, a Cable One Case Study. I have a special guest with us today named Sean Goss, who's Manager, Technology Services, Process Improvement, Cable One. And I'll do a little bit more introduction, for him in just a couple minutes here. But want to get started here. If you do have any questions, please use the chat feature in WebEx here. And I'll be looking at the questions that we have coming up. We'll try to save a few minutes at the end to handle any questions. But anything we cannot get to, we will try to go on ahead and make sure that either Sean or myself will be able to get some answers, provided to everyone. So with that, as we go through, real quick, I want to just do a review from my last webinar around Lean Kaizen and MAKE. And an A3 is really what that is going to be looking at also. And then I'm going to introduce Sean and Sean was our Practitioner of the Year. And Sean's then going to take over from there and talk about who is Cable One, and he has two events out of a number of events that they've run that he's going to talk about, and kind of go through them. And with the limited time, it's not going to get into all the detail that you may have questions around there for the importance of the questions that you may want to be asking. So with that, just remember that when we last talked in the webinar I did earlier, we talked about the MAKE model of the define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, and how it's a structured approach. And we also talked about the A3, which also provides another structured approach to problem solving. And so with that, if we keep that in mind, you're actually going to see, samples of what A3s were done from Sean's organization of what they went through, and you'll see a couple different varieties of those, which is all perfectly okay. So I do want to introduce Sean. Sean was our Practitioner of the Year at Pink 18, and I've worked off and on with Sean for a very long time. Consider him to be a very good friend of mine, but he is brilliant when it comes into managing the improvements across Cable One that is out there. They've run a multitude of Kaizen events. They've had interactions at the senior, executive level of the organization, as they have a lot of real energy surrounding the overall aspect of process improvement that is there. So I'm very honored to have Sean join us today. And with that, Sean, I'm going to turn it over to you now. And if you want to go on ahead and get us kick-started, talk a little bit about Cable One, and then we will let you also then just roll right into the Kaizen events and just tell me when you want me to move to the next slide.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Gary. I appreciate that fine introduction. As Gary said, my name is Sean Goss. I'm the manager here at Cable One. Cable One is among the 10 largest cable companies in the United States. We serve nearly 800,000 residential as well as business customers in 21 states. And we provide our consumers with an array of communication and entertainment services such as high-speed internet, advanced Wi-Fi solutions, cable television, and telephone service. Next slide, Gary. So our first Kaizen event, this was a team Kaizen event, and this was so a team Kaizen is basically something that can be resolved within one team. And with all of our Kaizen events, we use the DMAIC model for the Kaizen events as well as a problem-solving A3. And so the issue that we had with our first event, this team Kaizen event, is that here at our organization, we use Avaya soft phones. And an Avaya soft phone is just an application that's loaded onto your computer to emulate your desk phone. And so it's widely used by associates that work from home or our remote call center associates. And so anytime we would get a request from an associate to set up a soft phone application, it would take 5 to 7 business days from the time that that associate put in their request until it's actually completed. And so, in looking at that existing process, we look for ways to kind of improve that and see if we could actually eliminate the amount of time that it would take to turn these requests around for our customers. One of the other things that this particular request did too is it touched 4 of our technology groups within IT. So again, we wanted to see how we can actually improve that, and so we had a Team Kaizen event, and it was consisted of 7 participants, and the Kaizen event, it lasted for about 3 days. Next slide, please, Gary. So here is just a brief overview of the problem-solving A3 that we used for this event. The event was titled Automate Soft Phone Deployment, and again, the background of it was it took up to 5 to 7 business days for an associate to actually get a soft phone set up. And so what you're seeing in the current condition is the request when it comes in and how it spans across 4 different technology groups. So what we were able to do is we looked at all of the different processes that was involved, and we were able to eliminate 2 of the groups that these requests actually come to. And then what we did was instead of taking all of these different processes and spreading them across 4 different groups, we actually empowered 2 groups to be able to handle these requests. And by giving them the tools and access that they needed to set up these soft phones, we were able to decrease the amount of time from 5 to 7 business days down to 8 hours. So essentially, if an associate put in a request, we could turn that request around within 1 day. And so that was what the result of this Kaizen event was. If you want to go ahead to the next slide, Gary. So yes, after putting these improvements in place, we were able to streamline the request process, and the user was able to be set up within 1 business day. And instead of it touching 4 technology groups, now there were only 2 technology groups that was involved. And again, that improved the customer satisfaction, because now these individuals that needed a soft phone to perform their jobs actually was set up in a quicker amount of time than it traditionally took. So we felt that this was a success, and we touched bases with the teams that's been responsible for setting up these soft phones, and again, just taking a look at some of the tickets and reviewing them, they are continuing to turn these around within 1 day. Our next event was our onboarding situation that we had here at Cable One. And so this, unlike the other Kaizen event, this was a group Kaizen which required representatives from various teams and departments. And the problem we were facing with our onboarding process was that when an associate would start on day 1, it would take up to 3 days for that associate to have the necessary access to our network, their email, as well as the benefits website. And so we realized that this was a high priority Kaizen event. So we put together a team of 15 participants representing various different functions from the organization. We held it over the course of 3 days. And one of the lessons that we learned is that by bringing in members from different departments, we were able to see the bigger picture. We had representation from HR, payroll, IT, facilities, even members of our contact center. And so we were able to see, we focused on our piece of the puzzle in IT, but we really didn't have a clear understanding of what's involved with HR, what's involved with payroll, what's involved with facilities. So this event really enlightened us to the bigger picture and how we play an important role in all of this, and how the other teams also had an integral part in this as well. So here what you're looking at is a problem-solving A3 as well as a Kaizen charter document that we used for this event. And when we went into this event, again, as we mentioned, the problem was the associate, when they started on day one, it may take up to 3 days for them to have the necessary access that they had. But as we kind of dug deeper into this, we also found out that with an associate sitting there 3 days, not being able to have access to their computer or be able to perform anything, that's a potential loss to the company. It also resulted in lower associate satisfaction and morale, and it also added to the frustration for other associates and the managers that were involved in the process. And so when we got involved with this event, we took advantage of a lot of the different tools that are encouraged in Kaizen. So we used our problem-solving 8.3. We used a SIPOC chart to document the process. We used a current state value stream map as well as a future state value stream map. We also created what's called a cross-functional flow chart to see how the different groups and teams, processes, and responsibilities relate to the others. And we also took advantage of using the voice of the customer. And some of the things we did there was we used observation just by observing, as well as interviews with various individuals on their experience with our onboarding process. And so what this resulted in this Kaizen event, the next slide, Gary, is we identified 6 items six potential improvements that would improve the onboarding process. Now, one of the things that we did on day one is we talked to our sponsor and asked him what the success looked like, or what would success look like. And he explained to us that success from this event would be that to have an associate start on day one and be able to have access to the email, network, and our benefits website. Everything else can come at a later time, but if we could get those 3 things accomplished, then this event would be successful. And so what we did was we were able to identify 6 things that would accomplish that. 5 of them we were able to put in place right away. These improvements, because they span across multiple teams, we gave ourselves 60 days to implement these improvements. And what we were able to successfully come up with were things that we could accomplish in a relatively small amount of time. So 5 of the things that we accomplished was we created a new hire checklist. We actually automated some of the paperwork for the new hires, because a lot of the documents were faxing back and forth. And so we eliminated that by automating some of the paperwork. We also processed new hires on Payroll Monday. In our organization, the payroll department have specific Mondays, every other Monday, where they're processing the payroll for the entire organization. And so that Monday, Tuesday, they're processing payroll, and then on Wednesday, they're doing audits of that payroll. And so an associate wouldn't be able to get into the system until typically Thursday. So what our payroll department decided to do is have a dedicated resource that would process all of new hire paperwork on Monday, whether it's a payroll Monday or just a regular Monday. And then this would kind of start the workflow so that those associates can get the access that they need. The next improvement that we identified was automating our benefits email. That was a manual process, and so we were able to have that automated internally so that when an associate logs in, they automatically would have that email in their inbox and they can go and set up their benefits. And then the 5th item was actually the amount of time that it takes to order equipment for our associates. One of the things we learned early on in our Kaizen event is that it takes about 32 days to recruit a new associate. And so what we did was, one of the improvements within IT was to be able to, once we know that they're recruiting for a new associate, to go ahead and place the order for the hardware that would be needed for that associate, so that it'll give us plenty of time to have it set up and ready on day one when the associate arrives. And so 30 days after all of these improvements were implemented, we followed up with various groups in our organization, such as our sales and marketing, as well as our contact centers, just to see what their experience had been with onboarding new associates, and they told us that it had improved tremendously. Just by implementing these 5 process improvement ideas, they said that the onboarding of the associates had improved tremendously, and of course morale had increased, and their customer satisfaction had increased. So we felt that this event was very successful.
Okay, Sean, before I move on to the conclusion here, I got some questions for you, so I'm going to put you on the spot if that's okay. As you did your value stream mapping, were you able to identify, I know you were able to streamline, but identify some waste that was going on, non-value add activities, as Lean refers to it as?
Yes, we were. We were able to identify some things that were, as you consider, waste that was hindering the process or holding up. For example, the paperwork, the faxing of back and forth for the paperwork with the potential candidates. They would, with the hiring manager and the payroll and the HR department trying to kind of keep up with all of that, we saw where we can improve that by leveraging DocuSign and digitizing a lot of the paperwork, and by doing that, we were able to eliminate the amount of time it takes for them to process paperwork.
Okay, all right, good. Next question that I have is around your, especially in this second event where you had to bring people in from the rest of the organization. Did it take a while, because it was a 3-day event, if I remember correctly, did it
Yes.
take a while for the team to kind of form and everybody to work together? Did they understand clearly, like let's say it started on Monday morning, that everyone had that shared purpose and shared goals of what they wanted to try to accomplish? Could you talk a little bit about the team and how that worked?
Sure. So because this was a larger event that touched various different groups here within Cable One, leading up to the Kaizen event, we actually had meetings. We had meetings with HR representatives. We had meetings with the payroll group. We also had meetings with various groups in IT and facilities to just kind of give them an overview of what this event was going to be about, what we were trying to accomplish, and to really kind of solicit as much information from them as possible. So one of the things we also asked them to do is that if they weren't the subject matter expert, to invite others in that can kind of speak to the process. That way we don't miss anything. And so leading up to the event, we actually had smaller meetings with the various groups so that they would know what to expect on day one.
Okay, good. And were these groups also involved in completing the charter? And I think it was a part of your A3 also, or was the charter just continued to be built? It, started off maybe through those meetings, then built through the rest of the Kaizen event.
Yeah. So what we would do each day with the charter, we would meet in the morning. Well, first of all, on the first day, of course, we presented the charter, we presented the problem statement, just to make sure that we were consistent with what the problem was. And then they contributed to what was put into the charter. So each day we would review it at the end of the day, and then at the beginning of the next morning we would also review just to make sure we didn't miss anything, or if something came up that we didn't think about, we would add to it. But they had a very integral part in us completing that charter.
Okay, all right, that's good. So can you give a heads up for the participants today around how many different Kaizen events that you have run and how maybe some have been different than others? Again, I'm putting you on the spot here, so my apologies. Just a ballpark type number, that you have, and overall, any key lessons learned that from different events that you have run.
Yes. So with the group Kaizen events, I believe we've had a total of 3 of those, and then the smaller team Kaizen events, we've had a total of 15. And so the group Kaizen events I'm definitely involved in, where I work as a Kaizen lead and closely with the sponsor. The team Kaizen events, either I've been involved with those, or I work with the manager of the group or the lead of that group, just to make sure that we're capturing everything in the problem-solving A3, making suggestions on the different tools that we could use in that event, so that we are really leveraging, what we've learned with Kaizen thus far. So I would say overall, we've probably had about 18 Kaizen events here at Cable One since 2017, the beginning of 2017.
Okay. All right. And what have been some key lessons learned that you have, either lessons learned that's been positive that you reinforce, or lessons learned that was, aha, gotcha, boy, we sure didn't see that coming. Anything you could share with the participants?
I think some of the lessons learned is really honing in on some of the subject matter experts, because sometimes we think we may know a lot about the process, but when you bring in people that are touching it and dealing with it on a daily basis, it's very enlightening. For example, in HR and payroll, we had invited some ladies in, and they came in and they just really showed us a lot of different parts of the process that we had never seen before in the systems that we use on a daily basis. So I think leveraging those that are very close to the process and the knowledge that they have, and allowing them to, definitely getting their input is very key to a lot of our improvements. The other thing too is just working with the various groups has been, very encouraging, because you bring folks in who we may see on a daily basis, but we work from different groups, and we put them together in a room for 2.5, 3 days, and you really get the creative juices flowing and are able to come up with a lot of different ideas. Some of our associates that have been involved with Kaizen events have been trained, Kaizen trained, and some of them haven't. And one of the things that we learned coming out of the onboarding event, especially with our HR group, was that they wanted to learn more about Lean IT, and so it's to encourage some to want to take a further step into, implementing this in their daily work routine. So they wanted to be trained on Lean IT.
Okay, that's interesting then. So you had some positive results and unexpected outcomes, so that's always good news that is out there. Is there any words of wisdom you would want to leave the participants with before I, wrap this up and check for any questions that we do have? And please, if you do have a question, feel free to put it in the chat, and and just to the host, presenter would be fine, and then I'll take a look at that.
So. Just real briefly, because Cable One, we really have embraced Lean IT within our organization. I would just encourage that when you have your Kaizen events, to really take advantage of the different tools. In these events, don't be afraid to speak up or to give your different thoughts and ideas, because it could be that person that's quiet in the room that has the key to what we need to get things resolved. So I just think leveraging all of the tools that come with the Kaizen training has really helped us to kind of be able to conduct these events and be more effective in how our Kaizen events are going, as well as the improvements that come out of it.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate that. And it's been very, very informative, even though we've talked off and on, and I've seen you in action, but it's always a positive experience, being able to work with you. So when we look at doing Kaizen, I can't say it any better than what Sean has already said. They work. They really are. They're practical, and you make the time fit for what you need, whether it's a one-day event, a three-day event, a five-day event, but give it a chance. Also, the DMAIC and the A3 are really structured problem-solving tools, as Sean mentioned, that does provide that structure that we oftentimes need. And also just remember that involve the team members, whether that's outside of IT, as Sean talked about in one of his Kaizen events, or within IT. And never overlook also that the voice of the customer is critically important. And from Lean, it's those who use your products and services, plus those next in the value stream. If you want to learn more and take a deeper dive, we do have differing certification courses out there for Lean IT. We always are talking about Lean as well as other best practices in our upcoming Pink Forum, which is in Scottsdale, August 19th and 21st. And then we also have Pink 19, which is our big conference coming up next February 17th through the 20th. So again, if you have any interest, feel free to register, for your my Pink account that is there, and you can get the latest white papers and resources and a lot of information that's going to be helpful and valuable as you go through your Lean journey. Again, if you do have any questions, I'm checking the chat, and I haven't seen anything come through on the chat yet, so I'll wait just a few seconds and see if we have anything pop up. Okay, hold on here a second. All righty, I don't see anything. All right, with that, I want to go on ahead. Sean, I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today. It was great to hear. You had a lot of good examples. You provide a lot of structure. You provide good leadership skills in your facilitation, being the Kaizen lead, and coaching and mentoring others throughout the organization. I hope everyone has learned that we have, from Sean today. I do have a question here, and what is the best resources for Lean Kaizen events? Well, we talk about, I'm sure you can Google stuff out there, but at Pink, we have Lean Kaizen, Lean IT Kaizen course also, where we go in and we talk about not only what we learned in the Foundations course, but also what you need to actually run successfully a Kaizen event. And with that, there's many, many tools that besides the tools we learn in Foundations, we also have the tools that we add on to that into the overall aspect of the Kaizen course that is there. So that would be one of my recommendations that are there. And with any tools and with any kind of a practice that you put in place, I think consistency can be, good when you have, the same tool kind of being used in the same way. And as you saw that, Sean, they're still using an A3, but they are using an A3 with an A3 and a charter. So again, the concept around an A3 is what's consistent in Cable 1. So I hope that helps answer that particular question. And let's see, I don't see anything else. So with that, Sean, I just want to thank you so much. I appreciate you bet, and I appreciate everyone's attention today. If you do have any questions later on, there's our contact information. So Sean, is it okay if anyone would want to reach out to you? And I know it's okay for me if you want to reach out to me, but I don't want to put you on the spot here.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. Please feel free to reach out.
Okay, that sounds great, everyone. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Take care now.
Thank you.
Bye.